this 2004 Odyssey Millennium 2 pontoon boat. It's going to get a basic restoration. Pretty simple job, but it'll make one heck of a difference on this boat. Here in the back, the carpet is trashed, and we have a lot of extra screws and such, and maybe the battery could get tidied up and moved into the back seat with a shut-off switch that's maybe a little better than that. And maybe we'll actually attach the fuse block to the shut-off switch as well as just the engine. The vinyl in this boat is all quite good. It just needs a solid detail, and we'll put all of this back the way it was. So all of the seats are going to get removed, the console will get removed, the controls, everything. Then we'll take the rails off and we'll recarpet this boat with a nice vinyl flooring, something like seaweave. I think the battery is going to end up in there with the shut-off switch proper. And this table is going to get removed. It's just sort of silly and in the way all of the time. Now it has a brand new Bimini top and Bimini wrap and playpen cover, a mooring cover. I don't sew, so that gets farmed out. But we'll have all that brand new carpet, the vinyl all cleaned. And now I'll have to show you about the outside. So the rails of this boat are pretty rough. These stickers are, well, they're gone. That's just glue. Some of them are here. But after I do some cleaning, we'll determine if we're going to remove all of the stickers or just some of them and what it will look like that way. I don't think we're going to repaint the whole thing. It's just probably going to look better without this than this way. And we may just remove the stripes because it'll look silly with them. Clean up the gas tank. The first thing I'm going to start with though is acid washing the pontoons. So to accomplish that, got our handy pressure washer. We've got a bucket filled with lukewarm soapy water, just Dawn dish soap. That acts as a surfactant to allow the acid we're going to use to cling to the aluminum as you scrub it in and not get streaks. I'm using Zeppaloom, mixed between 10 and 20% in a chemical sprayer. And we'll get to it. After we've got the tubes acid washed and looking like fresh aluminum, we'll go after the stickers on the rails, and then we'll remove all the seats and remove all the rails. Once I've got this rail off, hopefully I can pound that dent out a bit, because we're not going to replace the railings, we're not going to paint. You know, make it a nice little boat again. Not make it a perfect show boat. And you might be surprised how well these come out. pretty big difference, huh? Okay, after our acid wash, we're gonna go after stickers. Now these stickers are really old. They're already peeling. The sun has absolutely destroyed this vinyl. So my thinking is even these stripes gotta go, because without these it'll look stupid. And my hope is that they're all just gonna come off with the pressure washer. It's gonna take some time and some doing, and we might have to get some hot water going through the pressure washer. But let's see what we can do before we start going with the heat gun and picking and peeling, and get down to where we need to use some solvents and then polish all of this single stage paint on this aluminum back to purty. Let's see if we can just rip them off with the pressure washer. We got the super sweet Karcher, so should do the job. As you can see, that's going to get us there. So that's a bit of work, but not too terrible. Much easier than the other option when they're real nice and you're trying to replace them. I think we're going to fix that dent, peel all the stickers, remove the residue, and polish this up, and it'll look real sharp. Next up, we're going to scrub the vinyl. Make that all pretty before we remove it, and then we can clean the back sides of it. So in these large bottles, what I have is Zep Formula 50 mixed at 20%. When I say mixed at 20%, I'm talking about 20% chemical and the rest water. Then we've got a bucket. Again, just on dish soap, acting as a surfactant so we don't get streaks. We've got a basic sponge and a scrubby brush. Just a basic nylon scrub brush. Starting to look like new vinyl. Of course, it's got to get rinsed and dried and treated. But all of this will be real nice. The stitching's still solid. We're in good shape here. We'll get all these cleaned up, then tore out, then the back side's cleaned up. Then we can take the rails off this boat. Let's carry on. Now, here we have mold and mildew spots, and I'm going to tell you the truth right now. Vinegar isn't going to do anything. Mold and mildew stain removers, they'll likely work, but I've never found one that is anything other than bleach water with a couple of things added to it. So, you go get yourself a bottle of bleach with fabric protection. So long as your boat is new enough that it has good stitching in it and not cotton stitching, the newer stitching on vinyl, is extremely resilient to UV rays and chemicals. You simply mix bleach 50-50 with cold water, spray it on there, wait, and watch it disappear. I'll show you. Bleach with fabric protection. Very cheap. Spray bottle, 50-50 with water. Mold and mildew spots on your vinyl. Wait. If stains persist, respray. They're nearly gone, and this process will have to happen on a lot of the seats in here. So what you do next is simply rinse with your soapy water. And usually I like to scrub once more. Now this will need to have bleach sit on it a little bit longer. I'm just going to scrub and rinse. And well, you can see that 90% of those stains are gone. And if we let it sit a little longer before the rinsing and rescubbing, it really eliminates everything. So we'll scrub all of the vinyl so it comes a few shades brighter. Bleach everything that needs the mold and mildew stains removed. There's an especially bad spot right here on the driver's seat, and that'll come out real nice. Then we can remove all of the seat bases and everything from this boat, eliminate this table that no one's ever used, pull the rails off, and carry on. Then we can rip carpet up. I do believe in treating vinyl, and what I like to use is this, another Zep product. No alcohol in this, water-based, very good UV protection, keeps it nice. Well, the stickers all came off without even trying with the pressure washer, really. So now I'm eliminating the residue, and I tried all kinds of soft products and landed on lacquer thinner followed by pressure washer followed by polishing is going to be the way. I wouldn't like to use lacquer thinner over this whole single stage paint on sheet aluminum, but it's already in really poor condition. It's missing in many places. I'm going to try to fix that dent up. Some of these places where it almost looked like there was a sticker with just bare metal, and the other side is worse. There's stingers and rashes, and the paint's just in bad shape overall. The other side of the boat obviously got more sun. I can tell because the pontoon down here doesn't have nearly the oxidation and pitting that this side does. And this sticker, all that silver is actually bare metal, so that's going to look horrible after I clean that up. Perhaps we'll get some new Odyssey stickers to make that look better. So we'll get the rest of this residue off here, and hopefully in a timely manner, and polish this boat on the sides. Then we can pull the rails off. Carry on. bit of a distance, she's looking pretty good. Got to work on that dent, and you can still kind of see where the stickers were. The next step is to polish this. We definitely need to remove black streaks and stuff that looks like that, even though there's spots where the stickers are burned through or the paint is missing or whatever. We can certainly get rid of all the streaky look and ugliness there. Yeah, get the whole boat looking like that. It'll also hide where the stickers used to be. It is old single stage paint, but I think that's a much better look than the alternative. Better than it was. As good as we're gonna get it, really. Was a pretty nasty little dent. Can't really get that crease out. Maybe if I was highly skilled, had it on a table and used a hammer. Okay, with the initial cleaning done, now we're gonna take the seats out, then clean up the insides of the rails and take the rails off. So all these are just super simple. Honestly, 90% of these boats come apart with an 11mm socket and wrench and a Phillips screwdriver. There's just going to be a few self-tapping screws down through the plastic of these two seats here. They'll pop right out. Then we've got a live well here. Customer stated it leaked. Well, it has a fresh pump on the back and this aerator looks new. Oh yeah, she's not tight and it's not sealed, so sure, yeah, the standpipe is that tall, then water can fill all the way to there and yeah, she'll leak. Well, that's an easy fix. And the aerator comes off super easy, so you know, that's nice. We'll just poke him out there. Poke him back in later, maybe even seal it this time. That'd be cool. This one comes off a little different. Not really though. Same screws, they just got these little button caps on there. Probably got to get a little screwdriver, make sure I don't mess them up. These seat bases, unlike the table bases, which were just self-tapping screws down into the wood there and had come loose and the table was way too big anyway. These are bolts with a nut and washer on the back, but it's still just Phillips on the top, 11mm on the back. Grab a buddy to make it easier. There's tricks to grab that lock nut on the back with something, then come up here and this, that, and the third, but it's much easier just to grab a buddy. Pop these seats out, get the stands out, pull the bases later. For these corner guys, you could probably pull that cup holder and try to reach down in there, but it's just easier to pop the speaker out. Same thing, a few Phillips screws down under there. We'll get these out, finish the cleaning so it can dry up a bit. yank the carpet off. This is where it's going to get nice and interesting. Probably can't hardly see in there. But generally it's all plugged in. I'll get a light in there when I start rewiring. Should be pretty easy to get the console up. Same thing though. Just Phillips screws holding it down. That's it. We'll disconnect the controls from the motor, steering, get it all tore apart here. Have a whole bunch of containers so that you can maintain all of your screws and stuff. All of the screws that hold these seat bases down are the same, so we'll put them in one container by themselves. All the ones that hold these kind of seat bases down are different, but they're the same as each other, so we'll put those in another container. Don't lose your stuff. I think I'm going to vacuum these out a bit before I pull them all the way out of the boat and keep my screws together. Okay, getting that console off all starts back here. We've got all kinds of stuff to figure out what's what. We've got the leads from the engine that need to go to the main battery, the leads from the fuse block that need to go to the main battery, and then we got this, which I believe was a setup for a 24-volt electric motor that we're not putting back on the boat. We're going to remove that bracket, in fact. So these are just going to get shoved back up under and wound up and zip tied nice and neat near where that plug is, in case somebody in the future wants to have a trolling motor. We're going to have to remove the steering cable from both ends and pull it out of the equation. We're going to have to remove the controls, so the shift lever and the throttle cable are going to have to come out of here. Not too tricky. And the main harness. Then all of that can get sent up underneath here. Here we can see our main harness and control cables, where they run, and they go up into the console there. So we have to cut a zip tie on the boot and then disconnect everything from the top and from the engine. I'll leave the control box intact. Looks like we've ran some wires back here in case we wanted 2 more speakers, so we've got some wires spooled up there. Plumbing for the live well, yes, and here is the power to our electric motor that we're going to coil up somewhere and eliminate. These are the bottom side of the seat plates. So Phillips on top, nut on the bottom. And I believe that at least 2 of the bolts for the console, yep, there we go, have a nut on the back. The other ones are tappers. So we'll get all that taken care of with the body. So here we are up under the console. It looks like quite a mess, but it's really pretty simple. All we gotta do is cut a bunch of zip ties and get these pieces all freed. And then there's plugs from the main harness and everything to the fuse block and the radio, and I can simply unplug. And the steering, of course, as well, can go to the back of the boat. Just go down out this hole and out of the way so we can carpet over it. But once we cut a bunch of zip ties here, it's pretty easy to find all the plugs and just take it apart. crawling around under here. I've just about got everything ready to go down that hole, but one of these harnesses comes up and is wired direct to that gauge. So I'll just have to take these 3 nuts off, and then that will all be free to get out of our way. Then we're on to the steering. These are pretty simple. Pull that pin, and then we're just gonna crank it and disconnect it from the motor and feed this wire all the way through there, and it just pops right out. And then this can get sent down the hole and out of our way for carpeting. The controls, I think, are actually going to get disconnected from the control box in this situation because of the way it is underneath and the way things are wired into this loom. This is not the bolt that generally holds this plate on to hold the throttle and gear select in. This bracket has been broken once and welded on. I'm gonna have to grab a socket. Gotta be cautious with stuff like that. He's downstairs. What? I hope he sound out. Wait, you recording? Yeah. All of the screws on your control box have Loctite. Put fresh blue Loctite on them when you reinstall them. Okay, now we need to pull those throttle cables towards the back a bit. They're going to have to go down that hole. There should be enough room for a loop here.
I'm pulling on these. No.
No, there's
No.
a loop back there. You gotta go under here. I'll go under. You try to get them with the hole. Okay, she's all clear, ready to take the rails and the rest of this edging off. Then we can peel the carpet away, get ready for the new one. Just a couple more things to do. I'll show you right here for the lights. I did have to cut the old wire nuts anyway. Then here for the Bimini, there's wires to go to the light on the Bimini. They travel through this tubing. They come down and out here, and there's no splice or anything, so I'm going to have to cut that, and then we'll go ahead and solder and shrink tube them back together. But I don't want to have to try to fish that wire through there, and it's got nice clips on the end too, so we'll save them. So getting these rails off is pretty simple. It's all the same bolts with a lock nut and a washer on the bottom. It's important to save your spacers and realign everything in the end by just using the same holes. So down here is what it looks like. There's just a lock nut and a washer at each one of those spacers, and a Phillips comes in from the top. So I'll grab a buddy, have him hold on to the bottom, I'll pop them out from the top, and we'll take the rails off. Now these side pieces are 90% just held on by these corner pieces and the cleats and whatnot that goes through them. This little trim guy just has a couple screws in him, but also in these there's a little Phillips screw. There's only 5 or 6 of them in this whole thing. We got to get those out too. Then we'll have this edging off and we'll rip the carpet and be down to a deck. Here we are underneath the boat. I've got a whole bunch of wiring, well, all of the wiring hanging down. Here's the steering cable. We've saran wrapped the cable inside because it relies on grease and that worm gear to steer your boat. We don't want to kink it, and we don't want to get it all full of debris. So I removed the throttle and shift cable from the engine of the boat as well, so that I had enough room to slide it through everywhere without kinking it and work it through there. Now I have to zip tie all this up so I can take it outside, take the heated pressure washer to it, and that'll really help me remove the carpet. It seems to kind of break the glue loose, especially if you get the pressure right close to it. We'll do that and then leave it outside for a bit. It can dry out and sand on the deck and get ready to put the new vinyl flooring in. Just got to tidy up a bit, a few zip ties. Time to prep the deck for the new flooring. This is the sweet vinyl flooring we're going to put in there. That's what the backing looks like. It's got a little bit of a soft core. You can use this 1/8 inch notched trowel to apply the glue. And that's what we're going to use. But before we can get to that, we got to take a grinder, play with this for a little while. Now I love these diamond ones because they don't gum up. You just don't apply pressure, be very careful, and rip most of that stuff off of there. It does not have to be perfect. Then we'll take the 40 grit on a DA and sand it down. Make sure we don't have high spots, and there's no glue that's already peeling or top layer of the plywood that's peeling away. And we'll recarpet this thing. Then we can put it all back together. Here's a bit of what we're up against. Just some glue stuck on there still. And there's a few spots where it's peeling away and maybe taking a small amount of the plywood with it, but not really. But anywhere this isn't really good on there, it just has to go, and we need a nice smooth surface. Any high spots we would like to eliminate. Just make sure our new floor is real nice. The deck is nice and solid, no rot underneath. So let's just prep it and slap the carpet on there. Here we go, our deck is all prepped. It's time to roll out the carpet, cut it a little bit to shape, and glue it down. This decking didn't show any signs of rot or delamination underneath or on top. All the screws are tight. We're in good shape here. I think I overrolled it, which is why I'm sweating. Kind of getting optical illusion staring at this material. And I did, but you know what? I know it's good. So there we have it. Fresh vinyl flooring on this here boat. I came out pretty nice. I think that's going to look just sweet with all the rails and vinyl back on there. And yeah, I keep thinking it's bubbles, like from here it's maybe looks like something there. No, then you get down and nope, she's flat as a pancake. The roller really kicked my butt because various angles and the optical illusion of the way this color is. Looks sharp though. Glue's cleaned up on the edges and holes. Now it just needs to cure. I'm going to staple the edges and trim them. So I found that in doing things like this, you have to accept that occasionally some of the hardware is going to be bent or it will break. And that was the case there. Fortunately, I have a bunch of stainless and aluminum stuff laying around in totes all the time. It doesn't want to focus, but here we go. It's a little longer, same thing, lock nut. It's just part of the gig. So in reattaching this edging, I find it best to start in one corner and work your way around. However, I always start in the back because you always have a treble piece here that allows a little play. So now I'll just attach the one side of it, then I'll do this other back corner before I attach the other side of our centerpiece. And from there I'll be able to work my way around in one direction and get all the corners and all of the cleats and everything else attached, and we'll move on to the railings. It is important not to over tighten the bolts that are attached to the sheeting, and be sure you have a good washer there. You don't want to suck that way up into the wood. Trim's all on. It's time now to start setting the rails. What I like to do is try to use the same old holes in a project like this. Make sure the rails are just straight the way they were. So what I'll do is find one of the places that it was bolted through and just poke something up so I can see it up there and kind of line up the hole of the rail with that. Then I'll take one of my spacers and put that in place and put the rail over that hole and start lining everything up. Then when I'm underneath here and I see all the stuff that's been going on, I can see which holes actually hold the railing down. 90% sure that that's one right there. And drill up from the bottom and then shove my bolt down through the rail and the spacer in that area and make sure we're all nice and straight. So up on the top side here, I'm just going to reach over and feel for that little driver I poked up, and there should be a little bump. There it is right there. And then I've got this hole here, and that's where that bolt needs to go. So I'm going to take my spacer and put it right over that bump. Then set my rail with the hole over the spacer. Now, all I really have to do is go ahead and take the rest of this railing and move it so that it's in line with the trim piece I just put on. So I know that this hole with its spacer is lined up where it needs to go. So now I just need to move this railing over until it's basically in line with the front, and I can simply put the railings up next to each other and make them in line with the edges, put my spacers under the holes, and I'll be very close. They need to be fairly precise, and we've got one spacer set under that hole, and we know because we jammed a thing up that that's where it goes. So now we put a spacer under each of these holes and check for alignment underneath, and we should see a spot where there was a washer and a bolt through on the plywood beneath. And we'll just drill up through the carpet into that. It should go into the hole in the spacer, or at least very close, and then we'll go ahead and jam our bolts through. Now with our railing in place and the spacers where the holes are in the railings for the boat, we can look underneath and we can find exactly where the holes were. There's a spacer there and there's a hole there. Here's the spacer where our bolt needs to go. Lo and behold, there's where the old one was. Now we can take a drill and poke up through the fresh vinyl flooring and then go up top and poke our bolt through. Also at this time I've got to not forget to drill the hole for the wires right here that come down through this railing and go up here to the Bimini, because these little plug-in guys need to get plugged in to the light on the Bimini tower, and it doesn't do you any good to plug them in if these little wires down here don't go through the bottom of the boat and tie into the switch. Now we do that all the way around, put our washer and nut on here, and we're ready to bolt this down. I made a couple marks with the rubber mallet, but they'll wipe off easy enough. Here we are under the boat. This is where the console is. I've cut the carpet away from this big hole where all of our wiring and the steering cable has to go up. That bolt with the nut hanging down over there, there's two of them there. And two of them here. We did just like the railings. Drill the hole up from the bottom, set the console in place, jam the bolts down through the proper holes. It's mounted in the exact same location. Now we're going to start with our steering cable, run it up the hole, and get that set. Then we've got all of our wiring nice and separated so that we can send one thing up at a time and not destroy it. Here's our console. And here is the hole we were just at in the bottom, and our steering cable's up through it. Now we remove the saran wrap from this here. That goes up into the bezel on the other side of that round bit. And the trick to getting it centered on a single cable C-star like this is taking your steering wheel. If let's see, if this is up and that's centered, we're going to want this bit facing right about there. Now all we have to do is jam the end in there and turn the wheel until it sucks it up tight. Then put the pin back in. And she's locked in place. Okay, we've got our controls and the wires for the control box up. There's those two plugs that plug into those two plugs, and these have to go back in the box the same way they came out. And we've got to remember to get everything run through our corrugated, and the base slipped over so that it's all nice and tidy. Inside here, we've got all our wires up, and the only thing we have to do, I've already got the zip ties started, is poke them all through this boot before we go ahead and reattach everything. Then it's just a bunch of zip ties to make this mess look out of the way, at least, maybe kind of pretty up here. One more thing we have to add to this console is this brand new sharp depth finder. You gotta get the graph going. The old graph had a transducer wire that was all chewed up, and it was 100 years old, so we got a sweet Helix 7. I gotta run this transducer to the back and get that line coming up into the console, and then take the power line that was for the old graph and just unwire it from the fuse block up there and rewire the new one into the same, oops, sorry about that, into the same ports. It's just a positive and a negative with a fuse on the block there. Okay, we're almost there. This is the Bimini top. There were terrible wire nuts and a shattered bulb. We replaced the bulb, and I will go ahead and solder and shrink tube these together, and also put one big piece of shrink tube over it collectively so it can shove in that hole and just be so much prettier. I have two lights on the front that I had to cut that also need to be soldered. There is one wire that I had to cut under the helm there that will need to be soldered. And I got this wire done already with solder and shrink tube that runs up. It goes through this railing and comes up here to go to the rear Bimini light. Now, before I went ahead and soldered all of this stuff, I of course took the continuity tester and made sure everything was good, and it is. So that's a win. A little bit of soldering, and then we'll finish putting this boat all the way together. It's pretty late on the 7th day of working on this boat. There's a little bit of tidying up of wires left, and I've got to take the seats that go in their pedestals and just set them in there. Other than that, she's ready to go, but I almost forgot about this. This is kind of, well, it's really ugly. So I've got a bunch of these binder clips that I've used in the past quite a bit for carpeting various things. And my carpet glue, the same stuff I use to do the flooring in here and that I do all my carpeting in. And I've got to put a bit of glue on this aluminum and put this all in there so that this is tidy and nice. Gotta have that drying tonight so I can go do a water test tomorrow and make sure the engine is good. This is what we're working with. This is all meant to be folded in and glued, and it's just aluminum. But I've got gloves on and I'm just gonna kind of smear it on here with my fingers because this foam will absorb a bunch and I don't need the notch trowel. And we'll clip it with these binder clips, and then in the morning this will all be glued down again and we can move right along to zip tying up a bunch of wiring mess and zip tying everything underneath and call it done. I'm a bit crunched for time and didn't remember to film this. So this boat had this thing mounted up here on the back for a battery shut off, and of course it was all corroded just going down to the battery. So we got a standard shut off, and we ran the positive from the motor through a hole I drilled into one side of the shut-off switch, and the positive from the fuse block into that same side of the shut-off switch. Then we've got a lead here that's going to go to the positive of the battery. So all it does is break the positive side and won't let anything drain the battery. Then the negative from the motor goes right on the negative of the battery, and the negative of the fuse block goes to the negative of the battery. So it looks kind of crazy like it won't work, but I've done these in boxes before. You can even use the screws they give you and put the full-size battery in there. You just kind of gotta tuck all your stuff up out of the way, jam her home, and attach the things to the top of the battery, and away we go. So I did intend to move the battery to underneath the seat, but the seat unfortunately was not tall enough. So I got this all rigged up, like I said, and I think I'm going to run everything out one side of the top and then put some corrugated on it to clean it up. But first, let's throw the switch and see if anything explodes or if everything just works. Nothing terrible yet. Okay, what do we got? Power to the motor. Trim works. Ooh. Not even hooked up to fuel. Live well pump kicked on. How about lights? We got lights? Oh yeah. How about our brand new fancy depth finder? Look at that. It's just a beautiful thing a Helix 7 is. Let's let that power up. Let's see what our radio wants to do. Standby, nope. Tuner, that looks good. Oh. Stereo works. Graph works. Where's the one we want? Yeah. 590 feet. No. We're out of the water. That's the one we'll use. Woo! We didn't blow it up. Put it all down. Let's just make sure a handy switch works. Right over here. Heyo. Oh, no trim. No motor. No switches. No graph. And no stereo. We did it. It's a shame that this just isn't quite deep enough to make it fly. That would be nice. And the cables of the battery, or the motor rather, aren't quite long enough to go clean up to the console. And we really didn't want to go through the trouble of extending them, and the boat's pretty well done. You just got to throw a fuel filter in it and water test it and send it on its way. Happy new boat. Yay! And now we have a nice pontoon boat again. With a good stereo. Everything's fresh and clean and treated. Nice new graph. Sweet vinyl flooring. Couple compartments in the back. Nice live well with proper fittings ready to go. Pump works, everything works. We got lights. Yeah. It's a gem of a boat now. Got a brand new Bimini cover. All is well in this boat's little world. Down under the console is actually tidy and nice. We got the box for the graph in there. Not sure if the camera wants to show you, but yeah, It's all cleaned up in there real nice. Here's a look at the outside with the rails all polished up and some fresh stickers. Pontoon's all acid washed and beautiful. Got a new gas tank, some fuel lines, a fuel filter, fresh oil, fresh gear case oil. Rigged up the battery real nice with just one line coming in and corrugated and a shutoff switch right on the side of the box. Everything from the bilge and the new deucer ran through a piece of corrugated there. Just a dandy little boat now, for so much less than a new one costs.